So, the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, during his meeting with military personnel at the Vishnevsky hospital, he characterized the strike on Belgrade as an act of terrorism. I don't know what it is more evident in this statement by the Russian president: cynicism or confidence that the sovereign territory of the Russian Federation should be out of bounds in terms of retaliatory strikes from the country against which Russia is conducting an aggressive war, killing its residents for 22 consecutive months with missiles and drones, and when the opportunity arises, killing it with involvement of Russian troops and servicemen from the security forces. We are not forgotten about Bucha and Borodyanka, about all killings, rapes and repressions in Izum, and what all this if not an act of terrorism. It is remarkable that the Russian regime itself acknowledges the fact of the death of numerous civilians as a result of its attacks. Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations, Vasily Nebenza, at Security Council meeting devoted to the massive Russian attack on Ukrainian cities, noted that civilians are dying due to the actions of the Ukrainian air defense system. But he did not explain why Russian missiles and drones hit residential areas, even if for a moment one believes that the targets of the Russian aggressors are exclusively military objects, as claimed by representatives of the Russian political and military leadership. By the way, when I speak about Russians from Putin to ordinary citizens, Russians believing in the inviolability of their sovereign territory, it is also some extraordinary cynicism. I certainly did not forget that the Ukrainian army constantly targets military objects in the occupied territory of Ukraine, in Sevastopol, in Donetsk, in Melitopol, in Berdyansk, where unfortunately there are also casualties among the civilian population. All these territories supposedly are part of the Russian Federation. They all are written into Russian Federation's constitution. From the perspective of Russian constitutional law, there is no difference between Crimea and the Belgorod region, between Kursk and Donetsk. Nevertheless, notice that no one in Russia is at all concerned about the victims among the residents of the occupied Ukrainian territories. Moreover, Russia systematically shells and destroys Kherson, leading to numerous casualties among the civilian population. Although it continues to consider this city as a Russian regional center, and all Russian official statements talk about Kherson as controlled by Ukraine, or, for example, the city of Zaporozhye also as controlled by Ukraine, where Russian missiles and drones also strike, causing casualties among the civilian populations. But Russians are not interested in this at all, because they obviously understand the conditional nature of decisions to annex Crimea and other Ukrainian regions. As for the Belgorod region, its military objects should not be touched. It is genuine Russian land. Also, if you think about it, what difference does it make in the end? Because Belgorod was transferred from Ukrainian SSR to the Russian Federation in the past. And if it wasn't transferred, it would have been within the constitutional borders of Ukraine. And then now Russian missiles would be hitting Belgorod, and no one in Russia would be interested in the fact that civilians in this city are dying. Just as almost no one in Russia is practically interested in the fact that as a result of the strikes from Belgorod, civilians in Kharkiv are dying, women, children and elderly. No one cared that residents in Kharkiv were freezing in their apartments as a result of Russian attacks on the infrastructure of this Ukrainian city where residents of Belgorod used to go for shopping or just spend time in the large metropolis that developed much more intensively than the Putin-forgotten Belgorod. But the most important thing is what Russian diplomats were reminded of at the United Nations when Nebenza decided to convene an emergency meeting of the Security Council in connection with the strike on Belgrade. The strike on Belgrade is a direct result of Russian aggression against Ukraine, he was told. Without this aggression, no peaceful resident of Belgrade or the Belgrade region would have suffered. No one's windows would have shattered. And it is Putin who is committing acts of terrorism. He is bombing Belgrade and Voronezh, Kursk and Engels. He is killing the civilian population of Ukraine. And along with Putin, of course, guilty of these killings are representatives of the Russian military leadership and so-called establishment of this country. Also, Russian military personnel who are killers and aggressors, and also citizens of the Russian Federation who support the aggressive course of their leadership and are convinced that there is no human cost that Russia should not pay for the theft of their foreign territories, which every Russian pseudo-patriot chauvinist considers his own, they are also guilty. And this has always been the case. I well remember how Russians were horrified by the terror during the times of the Chechen War, but they reacted absolutely indifferently to the carpet bombings of Grozny. The overwhelming majority of citizens of the Russian Federation simply didn't care about the unfortunate Chechen women and children. And now they don't care about Ukrainian women and children. Russia has long turned into a state of indifferent criminals. And Vladimir Putin and his ridiculous characterization of what is happening during the Russo-Ukrainian war confirms this characterization of the state as a criminal terror organization, and which is the essence of the existence and policy of the Russian Federation, and the essence of the mentality of the overwhelming majority of its residents. So, all Russians, not just Putin's, are responsible for Belgrade. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day, and till next time. Slava Ukraini!